Tonight on Reporting Scotland, almost 8 years after Edinburgh office worker Suzanne Pilley was murdered, her sister and mother appeal for help to find her body.
She was discarded and we just do not know where she is.
It's as if she didn't matter and she's gone and we can't do anything about it.
Also on the programme, a former hospital consultant tells court he was assessing how he would kill dozens of people he used to work with. An optician who claims to be able to treat autism and brain injuries using tinted lenses has been struck off. There are calls for the government to step in and rescue the Scottish Youth Theatre from closing. And hoping for a medal at the Paralympics, Team GB's wheelchair curling team. Good evening. It's nearly 8 years since office worker Suzanne Pilley disappeared on her way to work in Edinburgh. Her married ex-boyfriend, David Gilroy, was convicted of her murder, but has never revealed where he hid her body. Now Suzanne Pilley's sister has spoken about the unbearable pain of not knowing where she is. It's part of a new appeal by police for information, as Suzanne Allen reports.
This is Suzanne Pilley with David Gilroy. 2 days after they were captured here on CCTV, he murdered her. 38-year-old Suzanne went missing on her way to work in the centre of Edinburgh, at the place David Gilroy was employed too. They'd been having an affair. She had ended it. He didn't want that.
I wasn't at the rest to be thankful, that's for sure.
In the days that followed her disappearance, Gilroy denied the killing, giving an astonishing interview.
The police will do their investigation and time will show that, I don't have anything to answer to.
The reality was he'd already dumped her body in a secret location. Suzanne's mother and sister find it painful to talk about her. They gave only one interview to Police Scotland.
She was discarded and we just do not know where she is. And that is just sometimes unbearable. But we have to move forward. And I would love to be able to just give her that, that funeral, that dignity that every person deserves.
I feel, and my husband feels, that it's as if she didn't matter and she's gone and we can't do anything about it.
The truth probably lies over 100 miles away. It's here in Argyll, amongst the dense forests and mountains, that police think the clue to finding Suzanne Pilley lies. This area, the Rest and Be Thankful, and a large part of the country, from Bridge of Orchy down to Loch Goilhead, has been searched numerous times by investigators over the last 8 years. But it's vast and remote, and that's what makes their job so difficult. The day after Suzanne Pilley disappeared, David Gilroy drove from Edinburgh to Loch Goilhead. Police say he was seen on CCTV in Tyndrum just after 1:20 and then at Inverary just before 4. His movements in that period are unaccounted for. Again, on the journey back, there's another gap of nearly 2 hours.
We conducted a large number of searches in this area. If you look at
Police still get regular calls with information, the most recent just a few weeks ago.
We've been really fortunate in that people who work and live in the area have come forward, have remembered when they saw things and brought that to our attention. But it's really crucial for us that we continue to do that until somewhere out there someone may have seen something, or maybe someone has since heard something from an individual who may be able to point us in the direction of where we're looking.
It's the first week in May 2010 police want the public to think about. The week that saw a general election that resulted in the Conservative Lib Dem coalition.
It's the most amazing ending to the most remarkable game.
And a 12-goal game between Motherwell and Hibs. Whilst David Gilroy continues to maintain he is innocent, the only avenue left open now to find Suzanne is a new piece of information from the public. Then the woman who simply vanished can come home. Suzanne Allen, Reporting Scotland.
A former hospital consultant has told a court he was assessing how to assassinate dozens of people. Dr. Martin Watt said he felt monumental disappointment after he was dismissed by NHS Lanarkshire. But he said he had no intention of carrying out the plans he'd written down. Dr. Watt denies possessing weapons with intent to endanger life. From the High Court in Glasgow, Katrina Renton reports.
At the end of the day, you could be talking about 40 patients.
These pictures of Dr. Martin Watt were filmed of him working in the busy accident and emergency department at Monklands Hospital in Airdrie. He was a consultant there for around 18 years and worked for the NHS for 32 years. Hands off! Dr. Watt had been involved in a public campaign about Monklands Hospital. He believed it was going to close and spoke out publicly, which he said was not helpful to his career. He was dismissed following a disciplinary in 2012. After he lost his job, he bought firearms, 3 Scorpion submachine guns that looked similar to these, and 2 pistols, the same make as this one. They were found in a raid on his house in Cumbernauld in May 2017. He said he had made his own gunpowder and converted blank ammunition into live bullets. The court has already heard that an envelope was found in the house with the words "bad guys" written on the front. Dr. Watt said inside there were lists of names and addresses of people who had been involved in his disciplinary process. He said he'd had bad thoughts and he was assessing how he would assassinate these people. He'd written down plans, but he said he had no intention of carrying them out. His lawyer, John Scott QC, said you had the gun and ammunition, a bad guys list, thoughts about assassinating people. So are these things not all linked? Dr. Watt said no, playing out the retribution game on paper gave me some sort of comfort. Dr. Martin Watt denies possessing firearms and ammunition with the intention of endangering anybody's life. The trial here continues. Katrina Renton reporting Scotland at the High Court in Glasgow.
A senior police officer has been allowed to return to work but remains under investigation by a watchdog. Assistant Chief Constable Bernard Higgins was one of 4 officers suspended last November amid criminal and misconduct allegations. The Police Investigations and Review Commissioner is still examining the claims, which Mr Higgins denies. The former Socialist MSP Tommy Sheridan has failed in his attempt to gain a further £200,000 from the now defunct News of the World. Mr Sheridan had sought damages after the newspaper published allegations about his love life. He was later jailed for perjury. He received compensation from the paper, but this latest action was to claim interest. Lord Turnbull rejected this and strongly criticised both the newspaper and Mr Sheridan, saying they were each as bad as each other. An optician who claims to be able to treat autism and brain injuries using colour has been struck off. Ian Jordan works in Ayr but sees patients from across the UK and abroad. Using tinted lenses, he says he's been able to transform the lives of patients. But the General Optical Council says he poses a risk to public safety. Our correspondent Lucy Adams has this exclusive report.
Now, if I put this on, how much of my face is clear now?
The entire face.
The entire face, OK. What happens to the bits that are not clear in my face?
They're just blurry.
Just blurry.
Grace Hyland struggles to see faces and read at school. She's travelled to an optician in Ayr from the Republic of Ireland to see if coloured lenses could help.
If I do this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yes.
So when you were little, you could see your mum's face fully?
Yeah.
And now?
Now I just can see from her cheekbones.
You can just see her cheekbones when you look at her face?
Yeah.
And when you put the tinted lenses on, how different was that?
It was much more different. I could see her entire face.
Her mother says she was sceptical before the appointment.
We've uncovered so much going on, you know, things that I had no idea that was going on with her in relation to senses, in relation to colours, in relation to feelings and tastes. I don't know, there's just so much I can't even, I'm kind of blown away really about the whole thing.
Now I want you to spin around and get dizzy, and when you get dizzy, I want you to put the specs on and see what happens.
His methods are unorthodox. In 2003, they featured in a BBC documentary, and it's these techniques that have landed him in trouble with his professional body.
Stop straight away.
but he believes they work. He claims to have treated more than 6,000 adults and children in the past 12 years.
I think it's absolutely essential that people with these sort of problems are addressed. And, you know, it's actually a crying shame that it's been ignored for so long. The person with major colour problems, it may be affecting their life to such a degree that it is literally a life-changing situation.
Once the child's picked the colours they like, we ask them to compare them, and we would say which of those seems clearest and easiest to see.
Experts say there's evidence that tinted lenses can help treat specific problems, including migraine and reading difficulties.
Well, we think that what's happening in individuals who benefit from colour is that they have overexcitable cells in their brain, and that by putting a filter up, what we're doing is reducing the amount of signal that goes to the brain.
But that those who claim the lenses can do more than that are damaging the profession.
Well, because this is a controversial sector, I think it's very important that professionals do follow guidelines, because otherwise we could be misleading patients as to the effects that the care could have. And we certainly don't want to give patients false hope that we can manage conditions that there is currently no answer for.
Today, the General Optical Council said Mr. Jordan has been deregistered and that its Fitness to Practice Committee takes these decisions with patient safety and public protection in mind. While he can no longer work as an optician, he plans to continue as a visual consultant, but the Optical Council says he poses a risk to patient safety. Lucy Adams, reporting Scotland.
The UK government is to publish details of where it thinks it will need to keep some devolved powers over Brexit. It comes after BBC Scotland revealed concerns at the heart of government that ministers were struggling to counter claims of a power grab. Tonight, ministers in London also confirmed plans to change the withdrawal bill next week, despite no agreement being reached with Edinburgh. Our political correspondent Nick Eardley reports.
This is about powers coming back from Brussels, areas like agriculture and the environment. There's an agreement common practices across the UK will continue, but Scottish ministers say that can't happen without Holyrood's consent. Ministers in London say they need to protect the UK market and can't give anyone a veto. That's why there's been no agreement on key Brexit legislation and why Holyrood has introduced its own bill. So what now? The BBC has obtained a letter shared between senior UK ministers. It says power grab claims have been difficult to counter. It suggests ministers want to publish analysis on UK-wide arrangements, even if devolved governments disagree. Ministers believe it would rebut power grab claims. The withdrawal bill is currently in the House of Lords. A source has told us that a UK government amendment will be published in the coming days, even though it won't have Holyrood's backing. The changes will be based on a compromise offer, but that's already been dismissed by the Scottish Government. Further talks took place in Westminster today. The UK government confirmed its plans to change the bill.
We've always promised that we would bring forward an amendment. Both I and the Secretary of State for Scotland have always said that our wish would be to do that in agreement with the Scottish and Welsh governments. That's not been possible, at least not yet.
They'll also publish their take on powers in the coming days. The Scottish Government isn't impressed the plans weren't shared earlier.
I'm really unhappy that that type of thing is going on and that documents are circulating which are not shown to people who are trying to negotiate in good faith. And that's what it's about. If we're going to make any progress, it's because we're trying to make progress in good faith.
Talks wrapped up a couple of hours ago. The Scottish and Welsh governments made a new proposal. It's designed to ensure all powers do go to Edinburgh and Cardiff, but provide reassurance to the UK government that they wouldn't unreasonably try and stop plans for UK-wide arrangements. UK ministers say they'll consider them. But tonight, a fundamental difference of opinion still exists. UK ministers say they have a responsibility to protect the UK market and hold on to some powers. The Scottish Government says, in principle, all of those powers must come back to Holyrood before any decision remains. For now, agreement remains elusive.
Nick Eardley in Westminster, thank you very much. You're watching BBC Reporting Scotland. It's just after 17 minutes to 7. A reminder of tonight's top story. Almost 8 years after Edinburgh office worker Suzanne Pilley was murdered, her sister and mother appeal for help to find her body. And still to come, the Rugby Welfare Programme, which offers support to players who face challenges in their careers. The Scottish Government has been urged to intervene to secure the future of the Scottish Youth Theatre. The 40-year-old organisation announced it's to close at the end of the summer because of a lack of long-term funding. Our arts correspondent Pauline McLean reports.
Gerard Butler, Karen Gillan and Kate Dickey. Just a few of the famous faces whose love of acting first began at the Scottish Youth Theatre.
I'd wanted to be an actress for years, and I'd done, local drama group, and I'd had a really encouraging drama teacher at school, but SYT brought me into a world that I realised that actually this could be a career.
We were asked to write a letter to our future selves.
But for thousands more, it's not about acting. This is a chance for young people aged between 5 and 25 to have fun, make friends, build confidence. That'll all come to an end this summer when the organisation ceases trading. A decision they had to take after being refused funding by Creative Scotland. Fundraising and sponsorship raised 2/3 of their costs, but it wasn't enough.
We're talking about £200,000 a year, and that would keep our staff and it would keep our doors open and let us function. Actually, with a bit more, we could change the world even more than we do already. But bare bones, another 200,000 a year is what we're after.
Open the doors. Light of the day, shine in.
It's an embarrassing row for the Scottish Government in this, the Year of Young People. They've stepped in before to rescue the Scottish Youth Theatre and had funded them for the past 3 years in the hope they'd get back on Creative Scotland's books. But that didn't happen, and despite the calls from all parties, the Culture Secretary says she won't intervene this time.
We've got to trust the judgment that is made by organisations that are given that responsibility. But in this instance, I think the Scottish Youth Theatre needs to take a hard look about what they do provide and to make sure that they can have a future going forward. I would like to see them have a future going forward, but to do so they'll have to engage directly to find alternative different forms of funding.
But the Scottish Youth Theatre says it has explored all the options, and without public funding, the curtain will fall for good on more than 4 decades of work with young people. Pauline McLean, reporting Scotland.
Villagers in Gairloch in Wester Ross will hold a protest tomorrow against plans to allow wastewater into the sea in the area. SEPA have given permission for the plans. The Scottish ministers will now make the final decision. Ian McInnes has more.
The waters of Loch Gairloch are in many ways the beating heart of the community, supporting fishing, bringing waves of tourists and as a playground for a variety of activities. But locals feel Scottish Water's plans could be putting this in danger.
Quite frankly, to the community, this seems like a complete retrograde step when we all are looking to clean up our seas. And then Scottish Water announced that they're downing the bacteria, the treatment into the loch. So it doesn't make any sense to us.
A new UV filtration system will be installed, but this will only run 5 months of the year. During the other 7 months, wastewater will be left in settling tanks before being discharged into the bay. Last week, SEPA approved the plans.
I think people, could perceive it to be a drop in standards, but it's not a drop in standard that jeopardises any of the key interests, as I said, in terms of the environment, people who enjoy that environment and the wildlife.
As part of the plans, Scottish Water have agreed to extend the outlay pipe from here at their Fassich waste treatment plant further out into the loch. But locals say this is only a small concession and that it doesn't allay their fears about the impact on the environment. And one local fisherman's reaction to the plans?
Appalled. Absolutely appalled that we have a system in place and they're going to use it for several months of the year, and the rest of the time we're not important enough to use it for the sake of a few £1,000s. I'm appalled by the idea.
And there are strong feelings amongst younger villagers too.
There's already enough plastic in the sea and rubbish and that, and then just adding this to it will just make it really bad.
I think it's going to be very, very bad for the community and for tourism and the economy.
Last week I was on a kayak and my mum's swimming, so it's not very nice if this did happen.
Tomorrow, locals will take to the beach as opposed to the streets in protest. The final decision on the plans, though, will now be made by Scottish ministers. Ian McInnes, reporting Scotland in Gairloch.
A statue of Mary Barber, who was a campaigner in Glasgow during the 1915 rent strikes, has been unveiled to coincide with International Women's Day. She fought against landlords raising rents during the war and led a resistance group called Barber's Army. Locals in the Govan area had campaigned for the statue for years. Scottish Rugby has launched a new player welfare programme, which its chief medical officer says will be the envy of other sports. Rugby for Life will help players with everything from mental health issues to preparing for careers when they hang up their boots. David Curry has been finding out more.
It must be an incredible feeling to play in front of more than 60,000 people here at Murrayfield. But off the pitch, rugby players have the same worries as the rest of us. Add to that the threat of a long-term or career-threatening injury. Mark Bennett couldn't play for 10 months after damaging his knee against England. The sort of thing that can impact a player's mental well-being.
I mean, I didn't join in any rugby sessions until November, so that was about 8 months. I didn't play the sport that I loved, so it was tough going, and there were days when it was harder than others. But there was always someone there that you could have a yarn with and make yourself feel a bit better.
I think that illustrates one of the things that we need to be aware of. Rugby
Looking after players' psychological health is one key pillar of the Rugby for Life programme.
In the days gone by, it was perhaps the likes of myself as a team doctor. You'd be the confidant, you'd be the advisor, you'd be the psychiatrist, the psychologist, the general practitioner. Now we have a network of people, ex-players, experts in their own fields that can help the players out.
Preparing players for life after rugby is another key element, encouraging players to follow the lead of the likes of Glasgow's Chris Fusaro.
I've recently finished my Open University degree, so that was a natural sciences. So hopefully in Glasgow there's a lot of companies in the renewables industry, so that's the route I'm hoping to go down, get some work experience in those companies.
So the next time you're watching the professional rugby player of today, you might be watching the environmental scientist of tomorrow. David Curry, reporting Scotland, Murrayfield.
The Paralympics Winter Games start tomorrow in Pyeongchang, and one of the Team GB's big medal hopes is the wheelchair curling team. Nikki Fox went to the National Curling Centre in Stirling to meet them.
Final day of training before heading to South Korea.
It's far away.
It's not the team's first Winter Paralympics. 4 of the 5 members won bronze in Sochi 4 years ago.
Way inside.
But it's all new for Hugh Niblo, or Shug, as his teammates like to call him.
Shug.
He's making his Paralympic debut. He was 24 when he was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis.
When I get diagnosed with MS and you start losing your functions and your abilities, your confidence goes.
Yeah.
And I became more or less housebound. Getting into curling, confidence just grew, and it is a case of being fearless and just putting everything to the side and just going for it.
It's taken some adjustment for Hugh to get this far. His first sport was rugby.
I'd stepped back before my diagnosis. I wasn't playing as much, but I always had it in the back of my mind that I could go back. In my mind, I was like, I could be the greatest.
Yeah.
Mentally, it's very much more demanding. You're constantly thinking and looking for different shots, different angles the whole time.
It's far away.
Can I have a go? How do you actually direct it? How do you get it in the right position?
So ideally you're just pointing your cue, the delivery stick, but also the head that's on this cue helps with rotation.
Oh, it's going.
We don't have the use of sweepers, so once we let the stone go, there is absolutely nothing we can do to influence it.
It's going off again to the right. It's so difficult. This is so difficult.
Go on. Either way.
Although it's not an easy sport, it's one that people of any age and disability can get into. The team hopes that its performance in Pyeongchang will inspire others to take it up.
Just sign me up now.
Right.
Curling, it's more about inclusion than exclusion.
Yeah.
So all disabilities are able to play this sport.
Do you feel like ambassadors for the sport?
Definitely feel proud to be part of the British squad.
Yeah.
For me, it's excitement and looking forward to getting out there. We've been watching, the men and the women, and that really inspires us, and we're just really keen to get out there and on the ice ourselves.
The team is aiming to win every game, but the initial focus is the round-robin stage, with the first match against Norway on Saturday. Nikki Fox, BBC News, Stirling.
Timeline's over on BBC Two at 7:30 tonight, and Sheridan and Glenn can tell us what's coming up.
We meet the workers from East Kilbride who took on the Chilean dictator Augusto Pinochet in the 1970s.
Calling time on ticket touts, the advertising watchdog takes action against websites.
And Still Game returns to our screens tonight. We'll hear from Mark Cox, the actor who plays Tam Mullen.
That's Timeline, 7:30, BBC Two.
But in the meantime, let's see what the weather's up to. Christopher.
Sally, thank you. Hello there, good evening to you. Well, some lovely blue skies as captured in Aberdeen earlier by one of our weather watchers. And if we take a look at the satellite and radar image, you can see where the best of the breaks were, the best of the sunshine, but a rash of showers across the Hebrides and a trough just moving in towards the southwest and eastwards tonight. But really, overnight tonight, it's the showers in the northwest that hold our attention because they will be wintry to fairly low levels. Elsewhere, dry, cold and frosty, town and city temperatures well below freezing. And in fact, a few sheltered glens -5 or -6. Breezy in the southwest as well, but for those showers, we have a Met Office yellow be aware warning in force throughout the course of tomorrow morning because they could cause some issues on some high-level routes through part of the Central Highlands. Elsewhere, though, largely dry and bright to start the day, and by the afternoon, those showers should be easing off. So as we go through the course of the day, actually a lot of dry and pleasant weather on the cards. Temperatures by mid-afternoon, 7 or 8 Celsius, add on light winds, that's going to feel OK. A little more cloud up through towards parts of Argyll, in towards Highland Perthshire. Any showers should have gone by now. It's still breezy at times on the coast. Towards the east, Edinburgh, Dundee, Aberdeen, some sunshine for you, similar to in towards the Moray Firth and up towards Caithness and Sutherland. Orkney improving, Shetland probably more cloud here, but brighter than today. Rest of the afternoon into the evening and overnight, little in the way of change at first, but there is change on the way. Here we can see the chart for the weekend. You've got this weather front moving up from the south and it's coming in a little bit quicker. That means Saturday is going to be rather soggy because the rain's going to be with us earlier on. You can see it there already in towards the central belt by mid to late morning and edging its way northward. So it's a wet day for many of us on Saturday. Not especially cold, snow on the hills, dry in the far north, but come Sunday it's wet across Orkney and Shetland. Elsewhere though, it's a dry end to the weekend, although there will be a legacy of mist and low cloud, particularly around the east coast, but mild. That's the forecast for now.
Thanks very much, Chris. And that's Reporting Scotland. I'll be back with the headlines at 8 and the late bulletin just after the 10 o'clock news. Till then, from everyone in the team right across the country, have a good evening. Bye-bye.